In this video, we're going to go ahead and add in a timer and a score to our UI. So if we click on play here, I'll show you this real quick. The timer is going to start off at 90 seconds or a minute and a half. And if the player doesn't make it to the end by then, they're going to go ahead and die. And the score is going to start off at 0. And as we pick up the gems, you'll see that it increases by 1 each time. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing that I wanted to go over is a change we made in the last video. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to move the player over here. But in the last video, we added the next level here. So if we take a damage, and I just want to showcase this real quick before we go into how to fix it. But now we have 2 health. And if we go to the next level, you'll see that now we have 3 health again. And that's not something we want. We want it to stay consistent. So if we had 2 health in the level before, we would expect to have 2 health as we come to this level, and we'd have 2 more health to finish the level. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump into how to fix that real quick. All right, so one of the first things that we'll need to do is inside our player health script here, what we can do is we can simply add the keyword static here. So this is now going to be a static int. And then down here in our awake method, we're just going to make a couple of changes. So we're going to leave the UI manager and the sprite render here the same. What we're going to do is we're going to take this current health equals max health. I'm going to go ahead and cut that real quick. And then down here, I'm just going to make a new if statement. And I'm going to say if the current health equals 0, then we're going to want to set the current health equal to the max health. So this is going to initialize the UI with the current health. So this is going to initialize current health to the max health if this is the first scene load. And then underneath awake, we're going to make start. So we're going to do private void and then start. And then inside of start, what we're going to do is we're going to go into UI manager update health, and then we're going to set in the current health. And so that's going to initialize the UI with the current health, and this is going to be when we load the new scene. And then one more thing that we'll want to do is down here in our die method, so right above respawn, we're going to go ahead and set the current health equal to the max health. So if we die, that's going to reset the health to the max health upon death. And I believe that's everything for this script. And now we'll have to go inside the UI manager as well here and make a few changes just to make everything work. And all we have to do in here actually is inside start, we're going to remove the where we're finding the object of the player health. And then we're also going to remove the if statement. And what we can do is simply say update health, and where it says player health, let's make this uppercase. So we're going into the actual class of player health and updating that. So now this should go ahead and do what we're expecting, where we update our health to the new health as we go across these scenes. So we're going to go ahead and we'll jump in here and try this one more time and see what happens. So I'm going to take a damage and then go to the next scene over here. So now we have 2 health, and if we jump over here, we still have 2 health, and we can still go and take some more damage, and we can reset, and when we reset and lose all of our lives, we're back to having 3 health again. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a timer to the game. So we're going to set it to 90 seconds. And then if the player does not complete the level within those 90 seconds, the player will die. So the first thing we're going to need to do is jump up into the canvas, and I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this one. And I'm going to call the new one here timer text. And over here, I'm going to change this placeholder text to timer. And then I'm going to take this, I'll double click on this so we can take us to it. And then I'm just going to move it over here to the right a little bit slightly to the left of the middle, because the time is also going to be over here to the right. And then I'm going to go ahead and anchor this at the center as well. And then one thing we'll have to remember to do is we will have to do this. So I'm going to just copy this from this scene. And since we do have 2 scenes now, I'm also going to jump over here to the second scene and just paste this here as well and make it a child like so that we have this in here when we need it. And then I'll jump back over to our sample scene. Next, let's head over into our scripts and we'll go ahead and create a new script. And this one I'm just going to call timer. So we'll go ahead, we'll open this up. I'm going to, again, just clean up the top here, so we won't need those, and get rid of these comments. All right, so at the top, we're going to need a few different items here. The first one is going to be a serialized field, and this is going to be private, and it's going to be of a type float, and it's going to be called time remaining. And I'm going to set mine equal to 90f. You can use whatever time you want, but this is just going to be the initial time that the player is given to complete the level. The next one is going to be a bool, and this is going to be just timer is running. So whether or not the timer is running, and I'm going to set this one equal to false by default. And then the next one is going to be of type player health, and I'm going to call this one player health. This is going to get us a reference to our player health script. And then similar to that, this one is going to be of type UI manager, and I'm going to call it UI manager, with a lowercase unit I. And then next in our start method, we're going to go ahead and get references to these. So player health, we're going to get a reference to that component, and not get component. I want to do find object of type. And then I want to do the same thing with our UI manager. So again, find object of type UI manager. And then next we're going to start the timer. So we're going to say timer is running. And that's going to be equal to true. And then we're going to want to update the timer display at the start. So we're going to go ahead and call something called update timer display, and this hasn't been created yet, and we'll do that here in just a moment. So we can just hover over this, generate the method. It's going to put it above our update. I'm actually going to go ahead and cut that and put it below update. So for this, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to say if our UI manager is not null, so it does exist, then we're going to say UI manager dot update timer, and this again doesn't exist yet. And then here, this is going to be our time remaining is what we're going to put in the timer. So then to finish this script off, we'll have to go into our UI manager script as well, and we'll add this in here. But we'll finish off this script first, just to kind of keep everything sorted, I guess, if you will. So if we go into our update, what we're going to want to do, we're going to want to say if the timer, if timer is running, and we're going to also want to check then if the time remaining, is greater than 0. Then we need to decrease the timer. So to do that, we're going to say time remaining, and that's going to be minus equals, and then we'll say time.delta time, and that's going to decrease our timer for us. And then we also are going to want to update the timer display. So we'll want to call that method that we created down here. So we're updating the timer in the UI. And then we're going to write an else statement. So we'll say else if we're going to use if the time has run out, then we're going to want to trigger the player death. So if the time remaining equals 0 in this case, then the timer is running is going to equal false, because we'll want to turn it off. And then we're also going to say, we're going to put an if statement here, and we're going to say player health does not equal null. Then we're going to want to get a reference to the player health dot die method. And so this is saying this is inaccessible due to its protection level. So what we can do is we can go over to our player health script here. And if we see, we can find die. And instead of having this private, we can go ahead and just make that public and save that script. And this is going to remove that error for us. And then the last thing that we're going to need to do in this script is down here underneath where we did our, let me go ahead and fix this. Oops. So I can fix this. I have a typo here. So I'm just going to do Control R. And if you hit that twice, it'll pull it up. But I'm going to go ahead and fix that here because we want to make sure we spell it correctly. And so then underneath here, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to actually make a public void. In this one, we're going to call reset timer. And in here, we're just going to set the time remaining, and we're going to set that back to our 90F. And then we're going to want to do timer. Timer is running, and we want to set that equal to true. So now we'll go ahead and save that. And then now we need to also head over to our UI manager script so we can create this for update timer. So in UI manager, we're going to have to do a couple of things at the top here. We're going to want to add another TextMesh Pro GUI. And this one is going to be for our timer text. And then underneath where we have our update health, we'll go ahead and just make another public method. And this one is also going to be void. And then this is going to be where we add that update timer. And so what we're going to want to do in here for updating the timer is this is where we're going to format the time as like minutes and then seconds. And we're also going to update the timer UI text. So for this, we're just going to need a float, and this one we'll call minutes. And this is going to equal mathf dot floor to int. And in here, this is just going to be our time remaining, and then divided by 60. And I forgot to put that up in here. So this is going to take in a float of time remaining. And then next, we're also going to need another float, and this is going to be seconds. And that's going to equal, again, mathf dot floor to int. And then this one, we're going to be the percent here, 60. So this symbol here is called the modulo operator, and this is just going to get the like the remainder when you divide it by 60. So if we had 125 seconds, for an example, 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, this is going to return the 5. And the next thing that we'll have to do is just set the timer text, and that's going to equal a string dot format, and this is going to be how we want it to be formatted. So we want this to be time. And then in here, we want it to be like 0.00, like so. Oops. And then we'll do 1.00. Oops. And just put an extra of those. We don't want that. And then we'll do a comma, and then minutes, comma, seconds. Oops. So this line here is going to format the timer text in the way that we have indicated here. We'll want to fix that part there, as I had an extra space in there. So this is just going to break down how this is going to be formatted for the timer text. This is basically saying it's going to say time, and then this here is going to be like how the minutes is formatted, and this is going to be how the seconds are formatted. So for example, if we had, 2 minutes and 5 seconds again, like we used previously as the example, this one here on the left, this one is going to be the 2 for the minutes. So it'd be formatted in this way. And then this one over here is how the the seconds would be formatted. So it's going to be a 2, like in this is showcasing that in this instance, we're going to put the minutes over here. So it would be 2, and then 05. Hopefully that makes sense, but we'll see that when we play the game. And then we're getting this error as well done here. And this is just because we have a typo here. We have this uppercase update timer, but if we go back here, this is lowercase. So just change that and we can fix that. So now if we jump over here back into our editor, I'm just going to make sure. So my player's over here. To make sure the timer is working, I'm just going to move my player over here now. And we'll go ahead and press play. And the first thing we can see is it's not working because I didn't set it up correctly. We need to go into UI Manager and we need to add the timer text. So we'll go ahead and save that. I'm actually just going to go ahead and copy the whole UI Manager so we don't forget. Go into our scene 2. I'm going to delete the one that we have now and just paste the one that I have copied. And then just to make sure everything's the same, select the player health and the timer text health here and save that. And then we'll jump back into our first scene and we'll check this out again and we should see a timer. However, we're not seeing it. So let's try and figure that out. So we forgot to add the timer script. So just go ahead and add that and try one more time. So now we'll see the time here and it's going to count down. And I'm just going to fast forward this until we get down to close to 0 health. And then we'll check and make sure that the script's actually working and we die. And then we'll also check that it's working if we go to the next level. All right, so we're almost here. So we'll see what happens when we hit 0. Hopefully it just resets. Yes, so it basically just reloaded the level there for us. So that seems to be working good. And now if we go to the next level, we need to make sure that this also resets. So, well, when we come here, we don't have the timer, but that's likely because we don't have the script here either. So we'll jump over here to scene 2 and then just make sure that we add that component here as well. And then if we jump back into our sample scene and we'll test this out one last time here. And now if we jump, we'll wait a second so we know it's at 125. And when we jump in here, it resets to 130, which is what we would like. The next thing that we're going to do real quick is we're going to add a score to the game as well. And this is going to be very similar to the timer. So we're going to jump into our canvas. We'll need a new text option here. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate the timer one that we had. And then I'm going to rename that to score text. And I'm also going to adjust the placeholder text over here as well. And then we'll move this one. We'll move this one into place. So I'm going to double click on that to be taken up here and get it moved over to the right a little bit. Right there should be good. And then I'm also going to change where this is anchored. So to the top right. All right. And then the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use some sort of an object like a coin or something like that, where we are going to pick up to gain points. I'm going to go ahead and move our player back to the beginning for this. So for the coins, I'm going to actually use these little gem things here from this pack. You can find it on the asset store. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up here, and we'll go ahead and then you'll download it if you need to. I already have it downloaded, but then I'm going to go ahead and import it, and I'm going to uncheck everything as I don't need to bring everything in. And then I'm just going to stick with the gems. I think we're going to go with these gems here. So I'm just going to pull that one in, but you can pull in anything that you would like. So then now I have this gem here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into my game. And as you can see, I can't see it. If this happens to you, you just need to move the Z axis to 0 like so. So now I'm going to go ahead and just make this a little bit smaller here. like that. And then I'm just probably going to move this one up here, and we'll just leave it here for testing purposes. And then I'm going to rename this to gem. And I'm also going to drag this into our prefabs to make it a prefab. All right, and one thing that we'll need to add on here is going to be a collider. I'm just going to use a Capsule Collider 2D. And if you look here, you'll see that it surrounds the diamond pretty good. So that's going to be fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and mark this as is trigger as well. And then next, let's go ahead up here to overrides and just apply this to all. So we get that applied to the prefab. And then I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this a couple of times, just so we have a couple of these in here that we can pick up and move them around like so. And now we're going to need to create a script. So I'll head over to our scripts folder and create a new script. And I'm going to call this one coin pickup. So before we start with coin pickup, I'm actually going to jump over to our UI manager. And here we're going to add in another public Text Mesh Pro UGUI, and I'm going to call this one the score text. So that's just going to get us a reference to the Text Mesh Pro UGUI component for the score. And then next we're going to need a private static int this time. And I'm going to call mine score. That's going to equal 0 by default. And that's just going to be a static variable to hold the score. So on start, we're going to want to display the score, to initialize the score display at the beginning of when we start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a method, and we're going to be calling this one update score. And we're going to call that in start. Then I'm also going to go down here and go ahead and create that. And that one's going to be public. So in here, I'm just going to do score text dot text. And that's going to equal, and then here's where we would say how we want it to show. So I'm going to say score colon and then a space. And then outside of that, I'll do a plus, and then we're going to say score dot to string. So that's going to change our score from an int to a string. And that's going to update it when we start here. And then we're going to want to do one more thing. So we're going to want to also, whenever we add a new score, or when we increase the score, so when we pick up a coin, we're going to want to increase that score as well. So right underneath here, I'm going to do, or right above here, I'm going to do another public void. And this one I'm going to call add score. And this is going to take in an int, and we're going to call points. So what this is going to do, it's going to do score, plus equals our points. So that's going to increase the score by the specified points when we call this. And then we're also going to say update score, because whenever we add another point, we're going to want the text on the game to change as well for us. And then one last one that we'll need here is going to be another public method. And this one we're going to call reset score. And for this is going to be, all we're going to do is we're going to say score equals 0. So we're going to reset it back down to 0. And we're going to use this when we reset our level. So we can go ahead and do the reset score quick. That's going to be pretty easy. That's going to be in our player health script. And we already have a reference here to our UI manager. We already have that set up here in Awake. So then what we're going to want to do is down here in die. So in our die method here, we're going to want to just right before we respawn, we're going to want to go ahead and say UI manager dot reset score. So we're going to want to reset the score back to 0 before we die. And then now we should be able to head over to our coin pickup score or coin pickup script here. And I'm just going to remove everything, as we won't need any of this. And this is going to be a pretty basic script. So this is just going to be private void. And then this is going to be an on trigger enter 2D. And what we're going to want to say here is we're going to want to say if we're colliding with the player. So if the other dot compare tag, and sorry, I mean collision dot compare tag, because we're using collision, not other, sorry. So collision dot compare tag, and if that tag equals the player, so if the player ends up colliding with our coin, as we're going to attach this script to our little coins or gems there. So if the player collides with that object, then we're going to simply say find object of type, and it's going to be of type UI manager. Oops. So we're going to find that script, and then we're going to say dot add score. So then in here, we're going to have to add in as you can see, if I hover over this, we need to add in our points. So how many points we want to increase the score by, and we're just going to use 1 for now. And then one last thing that we'll want to do here is if the player picks up the coin, we're going to actually want to call destroy, and we'll say destroy game object. So that's going to destroy the game object that the script is attached to, which is going to be the little gem. So once all of that's done, we'll head back over here to our UI manager. We'll need to now add in the score text here to the UI manager script. And then on our gem, we're going to want to add in our coin pickup script that we just added. And then make sure you go ahead and either go into the prefab like this and add it, or when you're adding it here, make sure you do the override and apply all. And then since we do have the 2 scenes, we're going to have to go into our scene number 2 as well. And you'll see here in our canvas, we don't have all of that created. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to jump back over to here. When I copy this and delete this canvas and just paste it in here. So now we have all 3 of them. And then our UI manager will go ahead and, we'll go ahead and just set this up. So player health text, timer text, and score text like so. And then in this scene, we don't have any gems yet, but we can just go into our prefab and add in a couple like so, just to make sure that we can add more score here. So now we'll jump back into our main scene and then try this out. So by default, we have 0 score. However, if we come over here and we collect 1, we now have 1 score, 2 score, and 3 score. So it seems like it's working. And then we'll go ahead and we'll just check out if we die real quick. So what happens, will it reset the score? And it gets reset to 0. So that's working as well. And then the next thing that we want to check is, so if we're running through and we actually go to the next level, if our score keeps if it's going to stay where it's at. So here at the end of the level, we have 3 score. And if we go to the next one, we now have 3 score as well. And we can continue on and we can continue racking up our score. So it is working as we expected. That's going to be it for this video. Thank you for watching.